Western and Southern, preparing for your financial future can be easier than you think. Go to westernsouthern.com for more information.
Welcome into PFF Studios. Awesome Gayle here with Mike Renner. We're going to be doing a mock draft. This is of PFF's latest mock draft, courtesy of Mike Renner. This is on the site right now, pff.com. We're going to run through every pick here right now, presented by our guys at Western Southern. Let's just get right into it, starting with number 32. We're going from the ground up here. 32, Raekwon Davis, defensive tier of Alabama, going to the Pats.
Yeah, first thing to note is that this is off the current draft order if the season were to end today. So Patriots picking 32nd because, well, they're undefeated. Raekwon Davis fits what the Patriots like to do along their defensive line. Length, two gapping, sort of run-first defensive tackle. Now, the pass rush is a work in progress. Only a 72.0 pass rushing grade this season, and that's a career high for him. Not great from our perspective in terms of that regard, but the physical tools are there, and him stopping the run, 90-plus run defense grades each of the last 3 seasons, seems like a sure thing at this point.
Absolutely. Great run defender. I think Pat's at him at 32. Then we go to 31 here, Tyler BIADASZ of the offensive line for Wisconsin. He's a guy that's graded well in the past for PFF. Off to a little bit of a different start this year, but still a very good, probably a first-round talent.
Yeah, still probably a first-round talent. 2017, 2018, he was a top 5 grade center in all of college football, and that's as a redshirt freshman and a redshirt sophomore. So he goes 31, San Francisco, the best zone blocking center, zone blocking interior offensive lineman in this entire class. 49ers, you know they love their outside zone. That's that basically does everything for them. That's the basis of their offense there with Kyle Shanahan. So he goes to them. They don't need a center, but BIADASZ has a skill set to play either guard position. He'd slot in nicely there.
Fantastic. Let's go to the Green Bay Packers here. They grabbed their wide receiver, T. Higgins, a big receiver to go opposite of Devontae Adams. This is a team that needs receiving talent. It can't just do it with Marquez Valdes-Scantling and touchdown Jesus Jake Kumro. They bring in T. Higgins. This guy's a legitimate threat.
Yeah, we've seen what the offense looks like without Devontae Adams, and it's rough.
Not good.
Aaron Rodgers needs some help there. Get him a guy with a loaded wide receiver class. Probably going to be drafted in the back end of the first round, but there's still going to be someone there. Love T. Higgins. Love his body control. Bigger receiver. They haven't had a lot of bigger receivers there in Green Bay over his time. Contested catch guy. And my favorite thing is probably the best back shoulder. Makes the best adjustments to back shoulder throws of any wide receiver in the country. Him and Trevor Lawrence there, always on the same page. It's Aaron Rodgers' bread and butter. Now, he hasn't thrown a ton of it because he hasn't had the receivers to execute it, but now T. Higgins, I think he would. There would be a lot of those in Green Bay.
I think you said it best. If you need a big wide receiver in this class, T. Higgins is your guy. Let's go to Kansas City. They take on Trevon Diggs, the cornerback for Alabama. He's had a lot of success in the slot there. Good size. Really do like his stick and man mirror cover ability.
Yeah, you can't, with Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the ball for whenever he does come back, you can't have him winning shootouts every single year of his career. You're going to have to, at some point, start building the secondary on the other side of the ball. Going to have to start investing in that defense. Trevon Diggs, to me, at the back end of this first round, makes a lot of sense in terms of what he brings as an outside corner. They have a lot of good guys who can play the slot there in Kansas City. Not a lot of outside corners. Has the length, has the production. His pick against Duke this year was fantastic. His ability to recognize and see the ball down the field, go attack it, second to none in this class.
Bashaud Breeland got toasted a handful of times on Thursday Night Football in Week 7. I think they could really use a talent like Trevon Diggs. Let's go to Seattle. Jedrick Wills Jr., the Alabama offensive tackle, 2 back-to-back Alabama guys here. This guy's a mover in the run game.
Leads all draft-eligible tackles in big-time blocks. Those are guys, basically the pancakes, taking guys off their feet, taking guys off the line of scrimmage. He does it routinely there at Alabama. That's what the Seahawks love. They're going to run the ball. That's what they do. Brian Schottenheimer, they're going to run block. They're going to run that option. You need a guy who can just collapse that edge on those read option plays. That's Jedrick Wills to a T. And I think with Jermaine Ifedi on the right side, didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Writing's on the wall there, one of the lowest grade tackles in all the NFL this season. They're going to be making a move.
Such a good run blocker, an absolute beefcake. And if you're going to run the ball as much as Seattle, bringing a guy like this makes a ton of sense. Let's go to New Orleans here. They bring in a guy you really liked before this year, Jalen Reagor of TCU. Hasn't had a great start to the season, but we know, we've seen it. We've seen the high end. He's still a legitimate threat, can separate at all levels of the field.
And that's the biggest thing in terms of separation down the football field. He's up there with anyone else in this draft class right now. And Ted Ginn, getting up there in age, not the same Ted Ginn we've seen 4 or 5 years ago. He's in his mid-30s now. Get a replacement for him. Might not be a complete wide receiver just yet. Has struggled in contested situations this year, but Drew Brees can hit you on a dime down the football field whenever he does come back. And this is a guy who is an elite separator deep. That is what wins in the NFL today.
Can you imagine Michael Thomas and Jalen Reagor? And even if Traquan Smith takes the next step, I think that's interesting to see if that unfolds. Running back goes in the first round. A little rare for PFF, but this is what we think is going to happen, not necessarily who we would take if we were number 26 for Buffalo. They take DeAndre Swift, easily the best receiving talent at the running back position in this draft.
And that's the thing. That's what they've been trying to surround Josh Allen with, some receiving help there. And they really have. It really hasn't sort of taken a hold just yet. But I think DeAndre Swift at the running back position could be someone they covet, because he is, to me, hands down the best receiving back in this class. He can go out, split wide, and run receiver routes, actually win there from the outside, has done it before at Georgia. So at that point, I think he would be someone that the Bills would covet. In terms of pure running ability, I don't think he separates himself from the pack. I think it's a pretty good running back class in that regard. But his receiving,
it's always a good running back class. And Devin Singletary, that little duo there. Frank Gore, I'm probably going to play another, 10 years? And then I feel like once he eventually retires, it could be okay. Let's go to Miami here. Penn State. Yetur Gross-Matos has a ton of tools. I think we put in the 2020 NFL Draft Guide. He's a lot of talent with a ton of tools, but his production is taking an uptick this year. You're starting to see that translate into success on the field.
That is the biggest thing, is we've seen this progression from him from freshman year to junior year. That's very encouraging. I mean, he moves like a horse out there. The dude covers so much ground with his first few steps off the line of scrimmage. He really is a freakish athlete, and you love to see a guy who has that freakish athleticism. You don't have to come into college football completely dominating like the Bosa's, like the Chase Youngs of the world. It can take you a while, but as long as you're making the necessary steps, that's what we love to see. As long as you're making that continued progression, that's your Yetur Gross-Matos. Much better using his hands this year. I think he's just advanced so much from last year to this year as a pass rusher. Encouraging to me. He might not even make it to 25 when it's all said and done.
Wow. Let's go to the next slate of 8 picks here. Minnesota taking Jake Fromm. Kirk Cousins on a fully guaranteed deal, but it's time to start thinking about the future. Jake Fromm is the guy.
So that's the thing. It's the Kirk Cousins, the ultimate mercenary at the quarterback position. You don't know what's going to happen after next year. And you have a roster that's built to compete for Super Bowls right now. And the thing is, so 2 years from now, Kirk Cousins could very well just get up and leave. I don't think they can franchise tag him with where his cap number is, and what that would push it to with the franchise tag would be pretty absurd. So address the quarterback position prior to that need, because if you're drafting a guy down at 24, chances are he's not going to be a huge impact as a rookie anyways. It's just, the hit rate on picks that low is fairly low. So I think you get a guy, bring him in the building, let him develop for a year, and then you keep that Super Bowl window open if Jake Fromm ends up being, a franchise type of quarterback. So I think you make the move now before it's too late.
One of my favorite fits in this mock draft, Curtis Weaver, the Boise State edge defender, goes to the Baltimore Ravens. He has great positional versatility, great pass rush win rates for back-to-back years now, a very productive player for Boise State.
I'm calling it right now. I think this one's actually going to happen. This one, of all the picks, if I had to put money on one actually happening, Curtis Weaver to Baltimore, wherever they do end up picking, I think will happen. The edge need is huge. They always love to draft edge defenders there for Baltimore, and he is the Ravens type of edge defender, can kick inside and rush the passer equally as well, has the size to play a lot of different alignments along that line of scrimmage, run defender and pass rusher, a complete guy, not the most explosive, not necessarily the twitchy, bend the edge sort of guy, but so good with his hands, so powerful with his hands. That's what the Ravens covet. That's the Pernell McPhees, the Darius Smith sort of prototype that they like. That's Curtis Weaver to a T.
And it's a growing need now. Terrell Suggs is gone. Zadarius Smith is gone. It's time to start injecting that defensive line with some pass rushing talent. Let's go to the Raiders here. They take Marvin Wilson. Talk about pass rushing talent. An interior defensive lineman for Florida State that has had a ton of success so far this year. Yeah,
the true junior is the top-ranked defensive tackle on our board now. A lot of it because he is a true junior and is dominating the way guys like Derek Brown, guys like Javon Kinlaw did not do in their junior seasons, now seniors. But Marvin Wilson doesn't necessarily flash off the page athletically, isn't going to wow you, but he is enormous. He is difficult to move, and boy, when he hits you with his hands, offensive linemen move backwards. I think if you got him at 22, that would be one of the steals.
I mean, look at this guy. He's such a big dude. He's almost bigger than you. I mean, Marvin Wilson's a unit, and he can actually push the passer or pressure the passer. Let's go to 21. C.J. Henderson, a guy that's been beaten a little bit to start the season, but is a very good cornerback for Florida. He goes to 21 to a desperately needing cornerback team of the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, he's been beaten, but he's been there when he's been beaten. That's what you like to see. You like to see when a guy does give up yardage, is he contesting it? Because if you're contesting it and you still give up a catch, a lot of times that can be random. If you're contesting it well and putting your hand at the catch point, sometimes you just get beaten, and that's the thing that happens. It's going to happen in the NFL too. but I think C.J. Henderson, with how athletic he is, probably going to run the 4.3s, just how physically built he is for the cornerback position, just ideal everything in terms of numbers, athleticism, and then the production, it's still there. I mean, he's been beaten a handful of times this year, but he's still not giving up, gobs of yardage. He's not, losing ugly. He's losing when he's there at the catch point. So I do think C.J. Henderson's still one of the top corners in the draft.
In 2018, the cornerback with the highest percentage of contested targets, Jair Alexander. That's a little bit of nugget for you there. 20, Ashton Davis, the safety of California, from California, called Cal shortly. Ashton Davis goes to the Carolina Panthers here. A fantastic fit for that defense. Also, great range. You rarely see that. He can probably play a high safety role in this defense.
Yeah, fantastic range. Former track star Ashton Davis. They have Trey Boston there, only on a one-year deal. They've let him walk there before for Carolina, so I do think safety will be a need for them. And he has the play he made covering the slot against Oregon, jumping the dig route, picking off Justin Herbert, a fantastic play from him. And I think that sort of skill set that he just possesses in terms of balance on the back end, ability to break on balls quickly, reminds me of Darnell Savage coming out a season ago. I think that would fit perfectly into this Panthers D.
A former track star, a high hurdler, he has great speed, but another guy who does, this guy going to the Raiders here, Henry Ruggs, an absolute speedster, a game changer at the receiver position.
Yeah, might be the fastest receiver in college football. Not going to wow you with his size, necessarily his contested catch ability, only with 6 foot, 190, but I think he is a West Coast John Gruden type of wide receiver in that he's sudden in his routes, can run a nice slant, and then after the catch, look out, one of the best in the country in terms of just, he'll take that slant and take it to the house, and that's a key tenet to the West Coast offense is guys being able to make plays after the catch. That's Henry Ruggs.
And with John Gruden's offense, no more Antonio Brown. Tyrell Williams is hurt. Amari Cooper traded away. They could use a receiving talent like this. Let's go to Indy. Taking Javon Kinlaw, great length, a good pass rusher for South Carolina. I think this makes a good amount of sense for Indianapolis to take here.
Yeah, the Colts love length along the defense, basically any position on the defense. That is Javon Kinlaw, 6'6", 300 pounds. And he is one of the best pass rushers, had the top pass rushing grade of any returning defense tackle in the country, and he's improved upon it this year into the 90s. His pass rushing grade has gone. So an elite pass rushing grade so far from him, powerful, and his first step at 6'6", 300 pounds is right up there with any defense tackle in the country, which is pretty impressive in its own right. So I think Indy, with what they need on the interior, he is tailor-made for that defense.
Yeesh. Detroit Lions, number 17, Julian Aquara, your alma mater, Notre Dame. This guy, edge defender, fantastic. He could go higher than this, I think, in the draft. He continues this pace.
Yeah, he goes and takes his brother's job there out in Detroit. Romeo is there, but Julian Aquara is on another level athletically from his brother. Probably going to run in the 4.5s, if not in the 4.4s. The dude flies off the line of scrimmage. Only 240, 245-ish pounds. So like the 250 threshold is what we usually look for. But if you're under that, you better be able to bull rush offensive tackles. He's one of the best bull rushers in the country with how he converts speed to power. His flexibility is incredible. And I think he still has the frame at 6'5" to be able to bulk up and play in the 250s if he wants to. I truly believe after Chase Young, he could be up there for the defensive edge number 2 conversation in this draft class.
Next slate of 8 picks here. We're going to Jacksonville. Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker, safety, kind of hybrid in Clemson's defense. A very athletic defensive player that can play pretty much any position on the field. Jacksonville adds him.
Yeah, it's the pick they got from the Rams. I think Isaiah Simmons, without Telvin Smith, we've seen how ugly it's looked there at the linebacker position at times. For them this season, he's very similar to Myles Jack in that people are like, is he a safety coming out? Is he a linebacker coming out? I don't think it really matters. Dude can cover. Wherever you want to put him, he's going to be able to cover, and I think that fits into any defense. So if he's a safety, if he's a linebacker, doesn't really matter. He is going to make your defense better.
The NFL needs coverage linebackers more than ever. Now, with so much 11 personnel, pass-happy offenses, I think he makes a ton of sense for Jacksonville. Let's go to Dallas. Laviska Shenault, a weapon. He's a great wide receiver. I think he can win on the outside. He's got suddenness in his routes. But no matter what, at the bare minimum, he's a weapon that can be involved anywhere on the offense.
That's the biggest thing about this pick. They have Michael Gallup. They have, or should have, Amari Cooper. I get he's a free agent, but you didn't trade a first-round pick to let him walk. They'll probably have Amari Cooper back. After that, not a lot. And a dynamic playmaker in this offense, Laviska can play the slot. You can get him targets. He can make stuff after the catch. He can make life easier on Dak Prescott. Where he wins in that underneath and intermediate range is also where Dak Prescott went. So I do think from that perspective, Laviska Shenault makes a ton of sense for the Cowboys. Just add more playmakers to that offense. Then you think, Amari Cooper, Laviska,
Jason
Ezekiel
Witten.
Elliott. Not him, but then Ezekiel Elliott in that offense, you just have a lot of guys who, when the ball's in their hand, good things happen.
And Tony Pollard, too. I mean, jokes aside, Jason Witten was funny, but like you think about this 3 wide receiver set of Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and Laviska in the slot. I mean, that's a legitimate threat. That makes Dak's life a lot easier. That makes Ezekiel Elliott's life a lot easier. I think that makes so much sense for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Let's go Arizona. They get another receiver, CeeDee Lamb. This guy has had a stellar start to the season. He makes plays after the catch. He's got suddenness in his routes. Good size, in my opinion. I really do like this Oklahoma kid.
Yeah, I mean, they've added a ton of talent at the wide receiver position in recent drafts, but I still don't think they have a true number one, a go-to sort of guy in that offense. Larry Fitzgerald getting far up there in years. He is not that guy anymore. CeeDee Lamb is your number one, is the guy who can win from the outside, that Kyler Murray obviously trusts from his time at Oklahoma. So I think from a lot of different perspectives, it makes too much sense. And CeeDee's moved up to wide receiver 2 on our draft board with his play this year. He just really has it all at the receiver position. He's not a lot of things about it that he can't do.
You get CeeDee Lamb paired back up with Kyler Murray, Andy Isabella year 2, running a ton of 10 personnel. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Let's go 13. Justin Herbert goes to John Elway and the Denver Broncos. John Elway, this is the quarterback he wants. It's not Joe Flacco. It's probably not Drew Lock. Justin Herbert is the guy they want to invest in and get around.
Yeah, Drew Lock was not good out the gate. I mean, his own coach was saying how not ready he was for the NFL. That's a bad sign. There's a reason why he was not drafted in the first round. I do not think he is the guy of the future there for them. And even if he is showing signs of improvement, it's the most important position on the football field. We've seen how bad Joe Flacco's looked. You got to address it. And I would be hard-pressed to see John Elway passing on a guy like Justin Herbert because, I mean, Herbert's got the cannon of an arm. The accuracy down the football field is fantastic. He probably reminds John Elway of himself in a way. He probably sees himself. He'd probably let him date his daughter.
Oh, wow.
Justin Herbert, there's question marks with him, but that arm talent is the top in this draft class. There's no doubt about that.
Geez, Justin Herbert gets drafted to Denver. Some added perks there. Let's go to Tampa Bay. Christian Fulton, I really do like this fit for Tampa Bay. They're playing a lot of man coverage this year. Christian Fulton is great in man coverage. I think this makes a ton of sense for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Vernon Hargreaves, it's over. It's just not happening with him. The light switch is not flicking on anytime soon. It's just been bad for him in Tampa Bay. But what I like about what they've done in recent years is I think they've realized, hey, secondary is very important. They've addressed a ton of picks at it.
Yes.
And I think they're willing to keep throwing some until something sticks, until someone's going to work out there. Christian Fulton, to me, would be the guy who works out. Was our number one corner heading into the year, has been jumped by a guy we'll see a little later on this list. But Fulton is a lot smoother of a cornerback than Greedy Williams was coming out a season ago. He gave up 100 yards in that Texas game, but he had an ankle injury in it and has given up less than 100 yards in all the other games combined so far this season. So Christian Fulton, I think, is your clear-cut number 2 corner and worthy of a top 10 pick, if not top.
I already see the YouTube comments. It's Tampa Bay Buccaneers faithful saying, we just drafted a bunch of cornerbacks. Sean Murphy-Bunting, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, MJ Stewart, but
you know what that sounds like? That sounds like the Eagles from last year.
Exactly.
And look at where they are.
I know, and I think it makes so much sense to bring in a cornerback like Christian Fulton. Draft good players. I don't care what you've invested in the position in the past. Bring in a guy that's a game changer. We think Fulton is exactly that. Going to 11 here, LSU comrade Grant Delpit goes to Tennessee.
Yeah, not necessarily a huge need for Tennessee. They have Kenny Vaccaro there. They have Kevin Byard. But Kenny Vaccaro ain't it for us. I mean, like, the grading-wise, Kenny Vaccaro's never been very good in coverage. Grant Delpit would be, and he could be your dime linebacker. He could be a slot cornerback for you. He can literally do it all in coverage. So if you're getting him at 11, I think you're running up there with the card no matter who you are because he is a modern safety in the NFL. Could even play linebacker for you. Could do whatever you want him to do. That's Grant Delpit. He is a defensive weapon. Lots of people talk about offensive weapons. He's a defensive weapon.
And this goes back to just draft good players. I don't care what you have invested at the position already. The worst thing is you have a ton
of needs also.
Exactly. And the worst thing you have is a ton of good players in one position. Who doesn't hate that? So let's go to the Chargers here. They take Tua Tagovailoa.
Maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I think if it bottoms out for the Chargers, they have to start looking at plans for the future because if they really are drafting in the top 10, that means that roster is not at the point where it's ready to compete for championships. It has crumbled, taken a big step back already so far this year, and Phillip Rivers ain't getting any younger. It's safe to say his best years are behind him. That's just how it works at the quarterback position when you get up to that age. So Tua, I could see him falling in the NFL's eyes because he doesn't have the big arm, doesn't make the special throws down the football field like some other guys in this class Love his accuracy still. Love him on the underneath intermediate range decision making. All that's fantastic. So I still think he ends up going top 10. But I think you can see a little bit of a fall. And I think the Chargers would be a team that would be a prudent decision for them to go QB.
If the Chargers are drafting in the top 10 this year, they have to attack one of these quarterbacks. It's a good quarterback class, and I don't know how many more times you're going to be drafting in the top 10. You have to take those opportunities when you get them. I think if he falls to 10 to a Tagovailoa, I think you love that pick. Let's go Giants here at number 9. They take Derek Brown, the big boy. Great in run defense. Didn't have a great start as a pass rusher to start the season, but he's getting better, and you're starting to see that maybe worth a top 10 pick.
This one is more of a sort of predicting, knowing what a GM, knowing how Dave Gettleman views the world, who he would select, because D tackle, not necessarily a need for them. They just went Dexter Lawrence last year. They have B.J. Hill there along that defensive front as well, and Dalvin Tomlinson. So they have some guys, some bodies in there, but Derek Brown is a little different from all those bodies in terms of 6'5", really good length, and the most powerful D lineman in all of college football right now. Pass rushing is still a work in progress, still not the dominant that you'd like to see every game in, game out, but Derek Brown probably going to be worthy of a top 10 pick. Or for sure going to be worthy of a top 10 pick. He's would make too much sense for the Giants from just how they like to build a team. They like to build in the trenches.
Derek Brown, Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Thompson, Saquon Barkley, smash mouth football in New York.
They run. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Let's go to number 8 here. Now, the Miami Dolphins picking again. Tristan Wirfs, the Iowa offensive tackle, could get kicked into guard, but no matter what, he's a great offensive lineman, well worth his top 8 pick here.
Yeah, I think they just need to start adding players along that offensive line. Yes, you go ahead and tank, get your number 1 overall pick or wherever you're going to be at the top of the draft and get all your other first rounders, but you have to start building that offensive line for whoever will be that quarterback of the future that you do eventually draft, because you can't draft a guy number 1 overall and throw him to the wolves that this offensive line is right now. It's bad. It's too bad to be playing behind and keep your confidence at the NFL level. So I do think Tristan Wirfs, our top tackle on our board right now, plays on the right side, might have to kick into guard at the next level. That might be his best position, but he is a physically dominant, the strongest offensive lineman in college football. He's only a junior, which almost never happens. He is just a man amongst boys there at Iowa. Love his feet also in pass protection, really smooth. So not a lot of question marks about him. Worthy of a top 10 pick.
Jawan James is gone. Laramie Tunsil's gone. You need to start investing in that offensive line, regardless of who you pick. But this number 2 pick we'll get to soon. Number 7, Alex Leatherwood, another offensive lineman. And this Cleveland Browns team needs offensive tackle help like tomorrow. Like they need it really bad. And I think going into the 2020 draft, if you can get a guy like Leatherwood, it makes sense.
That's the thing. They really need offensive line help. They're probably not going to be drafting 7th, the Browns. So let's be realistic. They'll probably turn things around at some point. Not going to be drafting there, but I think Leatherwood, where they are picking, still could be available. I think people are going to have Wirfs and Thomas at the top of this class, and then Leatherwood a bit behind. But for me, he's starting to creep right up there with those top 2 tackles. Switched from right guard last year to left tackle this year. His feet are fantastic. He's so smooth in his pass stats. Only 3 pressures allowed all season. And watching those pressures, there was really more that his angles at tackle still quite aren't there. He's still not feeling it. So he was pushing a guy around, thought he was good, and ended up pushing him right to the QB, which that happens. But I think that's just an adjustment period for him at left tackle. But his feet are the best of any left tackle in this class, which I love. I think that projects well at the next level.
Jacksonville at number 6, building around Gardner Minshew with Jerry Jeudy, the best wide receiver in this class right now. Great after the catch, can separate at the intermediate and deep levels of the field. Love his hands. I mean, one of the more complete prospects, I'd say, in this class.
Yeah, I think he is I don't want to say generational wide receiver prospect, but best wide receiver prospect since, fill in the blank here. Whoever you want to say, he is on that level of very, very good wide receiver prospect. Now, he might get pushed down some boards because it is a best wide receiver class since probably 2014. It is a deep, talented wide receiver class. So if you're at the top, maybe you address a different one on the wraparound the second round, then you grab your wide receiver. So I could see Jeudy falling a little bit, but past number 6 for the Jaguars, they need too much. They need wide receiver help too much. DJ Chark is a good deep threat. I don't think he's a true number 1. He's a nice complementary piece. Jerry Jeudy would be your true number 1 there in that offense.
DJ Chark, Jerry Jeudy, and Gardner Minshew, the mustache. I really do like how that offense is shaping up. Let's go number 5 here. Andrew Thomas, a very athletic, powerful offensive tackle to come in and play for the Jets.
Yeah, he is just a freak. Him and Tristan Wirfs are next level in terms of what they can do physically. And it's kind of one of those things where it's only a matter of time before you really see it blossom into, Tyron Smith. They're on that level of just different than most 6'5", 315-pound men. There's not enough guys in the world that can move that way. Thomas is one of them, and we've seen it this year in pass protection and in run blocking. His run blocking grades top 3 in the nation right now. He just moves people off the line of scrimmage. For a true junior, is one of the things we keep going back to. Along the offensive line, we see guys dominate as redshirt seniors. Dalton Reisner, that happens at times. You're older than the guys you're blocking by 3-4 years sometimes. he's a true junior and he's a top 3 run blocking tackle in the country. That doesn't happen a lot. So I think this is a special tackle class, and I think we'll see that come draft day.
It's crazy to imagine a scenario where the Falcons are picking at 4 with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Deion Jones, all these people. But if they are, they're going to be going AJ Epinesa of Iowa, a great edge defender who's had a slow start to this year when you compare him to Chase Young, who we'll probably bring up later. But he is still a very good talent. We saw in 2018 what he can do. I think he gets to that level in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, he is 6'7", 280 pounds, and can bend probably better than me or Austin right at this point. His flexibility is incredible. It just overpowers opposing offensive linemen. The thing you don't love is that he dominated on part-time role back in 2018. Full-time role now, haven't seen the same dominance, hasn't been blowing up, offensive tackles left and right. Little worrisome, but you bet on those physical tools. A guy who's that big, that strong, and that flexible, it's gonna turn on someplace. He's going to work out in the NFL. He might not be your Chase Young, he might not be the elite, but he's gonna be pretty damn good.
And in Iowa's defense, he's not asked to do the same things as Chase Young, pin his ears back. He does a lot more run fits and things like that. Let's go to number 3, Jeffrey Okudah, Ohio State cornerback, the top cornerback on our board right now. All the tools, 5-star pedigree. He's finally getting tested and playing at a very high level right now.
Yeah, Josh Norman era probably over after the season in Washington. Okudah makes a ton of sense. The best all-around cornerback in this class. Very athletic, very explosive, long, basically ideal in terms of athleticism, length, and then production on the football field. Has been difficult to throw at the past couple of seasons. Yeah, there's not a lot of question marks with Okudah coming out. Plays in a system in Ohio State that's produced a ton of talent because they run a lot of man coverage, which is what you need when you're projecting to the NFL. Can you stay with wide receivers? Yeah, he's proven that again and again.
We're going to Ohio State again. Chase Young goes to Miami with the number 2 overall pick. They don't take a quarterback here. They get the best defensive player in this draft, the best non-quarterback in this draft, a guy that is a freak off the edge, is going to rush at a very high level as a pass rusher in the NFL.
And I think if Miami doesn't end up with the number 1 overall pick, this is assuming they don't end up with the number 1 overall pick, this could be a 2-year tank because the way that roster is, they're not going to be good next year.
Even with the top quarterback.
One draft is not going to bring them to the promised land next season. This is a multi-year sort of tank, if you want to call it that, which it definitely is a tank. But it is a multi-year process to get through. And at that point, if you are sitting at number 2 and you don't like the guy that's looking at you at the quarterback position, say Joe Burrow goes number 1, possibly, and you don't like the guy who's sitting there, you don't believe in Tua wholesale, go get you a Chase Young who is as elite a defensive end prospect as we've seen in our 6 years of grading college football, the highest pass rushing grade we've ever seen at the college level so far this season. Different sort of prospect. I mean, he is Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett. He is better than those guys coming out, in my mind. So I think he is well worth that sort of selection. You have a difference maker for the next decade on your roster, and then maybe you're looking at Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields out there in 2021.
You have the hashtag tank for Tua. How about lose more for Lawrence? Go to a 2-year tank into this one and take Trevor Lawrence next year. Let's go number 1. Bomb for Burrow. Joe Burrow, above average Joe. This guy has played lights out to start the season. He is a rocket up draft boards right now and very well could go to whoever's picking number 1. If it is the Bengals, if it is the Dolphins, go after Joe Burrow. He goes number 1 to the Bengals here.
What we've seen from Burrow, the improvement year on year, is unlike anything I've ever seen in my years of doing this. He had a 79.5 passing grade last year. Every single game he's played in this year has earned a grade higher than 79.5. He is a grade this past week against Florida, an elite 90-plus passing grade against one of the best secondaries in the country. Everyone's pointing to the Florida game and the Bama game. Hey, you're going to face 2 legit secondaries. Can you do it against them? He treated Florida like they're a Northwestern State. No different. Just, I'm gonna make my read and I'm gonna throw it to where I want to go. And I don't care if the coverage is a little tighter. Ball's gonna be perfectly placed. He just could not miss in that game. I don't know what it is, but the dude's playing perfect football right now. And if you play perfect football for 6 straight games, I think you're worthy of the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, you say about that improvement. He had a great offseason. I'll have the offseason that guy's having because he's absolutely been a rocket this year, and I think there's a good chance he goes number 1 overall, whoever is taking this pick. That's going to do it for our mock draft. We went through all 32 picks here on PFF's YouTube channel. You can go ahead and check out the full mock draft on PFF.com. Remember, all of this presented to you by Western Southern.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.